Now to move on to some of your questions. I received a letter on YouTube from Danny. Had a lot of good things to say about my thoughts on wrestlers. Gave me, his opinion on what he thought was going on with some of these wrestlers and places where he thought I was wrong on my thoughts, etc. I really liked reading it. I sent a response, but I told him there were a couple things I was going to say for the video that I wanted to discuss here. So the question he had was, Glamourella is, in my opinion, one of the best comedic spots in the WWE. I feel its only downfall now is adding Rosa Mendes, as she's really not bringing a lot of chemistry to these two. I feel like it's getting a little stale. My thoughts on that, I don't exactly know where they're going with Rosa Mendes getting involved with Glamourella. I agree. I think they're a great comedic spot. But it seems almost like maybe they're trying to build sort of like, in a very comedic and loose way, a love triangle between Santino, Rosa, and Beth Phoenix. Because if you notice, there'll be times where Santino's a little too into Rosa and Beth looks a little upset by it. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly where they're going with this. I could see a feud between Rosa Mendes and Beth Phoenix developing out of this. I don't know how they would work it, though, because that would mean Rosa and Santino, or just Rosa, would probably have to turn face. And maybe Santino would kind of get caught in the middle telling Beth, no, there's nothing there between me and Rosa. And they could kind of work it like they did the Trish Stratus Triple H storyline years ago, where, Stephanie kept walking in and catching them in compromising positions. I think that would be funny as hell to see that happen and eventually build to a feud between Beth Phoenix and Rosa Mendes. I agree, it is a little stale. They don't seem to know what to do with it. But if they're going in the direction that I would go with it, hell, I think that'd be a great idea. I think Beth Phoenix is the best diva they have in the company right now. She's by far the best heel, and probably the best diva out of all of them. The closest one to her is Melina, and later on in his message, Danny mentioned that Melina, he thought Melina was better as a heel. Personally, I like her better as a face, but I think that's because I don't see another face on Raw who's got the potential to have as great of matches with Beth Phoenix as Melina does. So for that, I'd like to see a feud develop between Beth Phoenix and Rosa. For right now, don't know where it's going, but hopefully it'll be interesting. Another question I had gotten from Danny was, what would I do with the announcing teams on all the shows? If I could do anything I wanted to do with them, first of all, on Raw, it would obviously be JR and Jerry Lawler. I think they're the best team in the business right now. They should be back together. SmackDown, I would keep Taz, but I would bring Joey Styles back, and I'd put Taz and Joey Styles together. I think they would be great together. ECW, I would keep it as Todd Grisham and Matt Stryker because they're upcoming commentators on a show for upcoming stars, so I think that works really well together. TNA, I would keep Mike Tenay. I would get rid of Don West, which he might be gone anyway if you saw Impact this past Thursday. And I would put Kevin Nash on commentator as color commentator. I think he'd be really great at it. I miss the whole heel color commentator face play-by-play guy. I miss that from the old days. I think it would work well. But so those would be my choices, what I would do with all the commentating teams if I could put them in any positions I wanted to. I kind of wanted to take a couple of minutes here at the end of the show to discuss my thoughts on the current state of wrestling. When I first started watching wrestling, it was probably the late 80s, and I watched the matches here and there. I can't say I really was a big fan of it. I'd watch it when it was on, but I didn't watch the pay-per-views too much. I didn't really get pulled into it. But the first match I ever saw that really, really got me into wrestling was Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, against Bret Hart at SummerSlam for the Intercontinental title. That was the first match I ever saw where I was like, wow, this is great. And that's when I became a huge fan of Bret the Hitman Hart. To this day, I'm a huge Bret Hart fan. If you haven't read his book, you should really give it a read. It's interesting. But, I watched wrestling then. That was kind of a lull in the wrestling business. It wasn't so popular then. The arenas weren't so big. And you really wrestling really hit its stride during the Monday Night Wars, which I think was the peak of wrestling. That's when you had The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mick Foley, and then you looked at Nitro, and you had the NWO, and you had Goldberg, and you had these great things going on. And ever since WWE purchased WCW, there's been a dramatic decline in what's happening on the show. I think WWE needs somebody to challenge them. I think WWE doesn't feel the need to really push the limits anymore, and I also disagree with this whole idea of moving WWE more towards a PG audience. I think that's a mistake to be quote-unquote family entertainment. That's not what made them. Your numbers aren't going to go up with that. I love wrestling. I'll watch wrestling whether it's good or bad, but I'd really like to see it get better. Right now, I don't think it is. TNA is obviously the number 2 business out there right now, and TNA is definitely up and coming, and it's got a lot of potential. But some of their storylines are getting a little chopped up right now. I'm not liking what I'm seeing on there too much. I'm a fan of TNA. Please don't get that wrong. But I find, like, I watched Impact this past week, and the show felt like chaos to me, like no flow to it, like just a bunch of matches happening, almost like the creative team is, taking a break, and you can't blame that on Vince Russo, all right? I'm sorry, I kind of like Vince Russo. I know that'll probably get me heat with some of you people, but I like Vince Russo. I like listening to his interviews. I think he's got a good mind for the business. Does that mean he should be in charge of a wrestling promotion? No. But I think he's got a good mind for the business and what the fans want. And I guess being a fan of wrestling for as long as I've been, I want to see it go somewhere. I want to see wrestling get back to where it was, reach that top plateau again, and I feel like it's not there. I feel like over the past couple of years, minus a few storylines here and there, there hasn't been much to talk about. You used to watch wrestling on Monday night, and the next day you went into work or you went into school, and it was, oh man, did you see Raw last night? Did you see Nitro last night? Did you see Sting come down from the ceiling and fight off the NWO? Did you see This Is Your Life Rock? Oh, that was so funny. Now, what the hell do you have to say? Oh, did you see Randy Orton running away from Triple H with a sledgehammer? Did you see, Sting and Kurt Angle fighting in an empty arena? I'm just, ROH, I don't see a lot of ROH, but it is getting put on TV, so I'm hoping to see a little more of it, and when I do, I'll probably start covering that too. But one of these shows, somebody needs to come up, and somebody needs to challenge Vince McMahon and get him putting himself back into these storylines and getting it going. Because right now, if wrestling was a 10 in the late 90s, wrestling's probably a 4 or a 5 right now. Those of you who are younger, don't remember that time or didn't see that time, go back and watch some of that shit. Get your hands on the Monday Night Wars DVD. Watch on WWE 24/7 Legends of Wrestling when they talk about the old school shit. And maybe you could see what I'm talking about. So, alright, I guess that just about does it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. Again, if you have questions or comments, comment on the videos, send me messages on YouTube, and if you have questions, I will put them in the show, as I did for Danny this week. Again, if you like what you're hearing from me, or you're at least interested in the business, even if you hate me, take a look at Jeff Meacham's Talk Wrestling show on YouTube, which again can be found under the YouTube username NoDQCAW, or you could also go to MySpace, myspace.com/Jeff Meacham. I'll put a link to his show actually in this video. So thanks for watching this episode of Unmarked Talk Wrestling, and I'll catch you guys next week.